Hello, beautifuls, and welcome back. This is kind of a fun video because it's all about savoring the tail end of summer. It's August here, and the blackberries are on. These ones were actually kind of towards the beginning, which this has been like a week and a half ago that I recorded it, so they're probably totally loaded right now. But to get down to the creek and to see the blackberries and to bring my little bucket along and snag up as many as I can and stick them in my freezer for crumbles and cobblers this winter is one of those things that I like to do to savor the sunshine and the heat and the relish summer. And in some ways, I've kind of made it a ritual or a tradition that I do that helps me know that I am being present and savoring the summer. It kind of gives me a sense of well-being before I go into the short days of winter. In Oregon here, we have a lot of rain. We have a lot of overcast days and can have many, many in a row. And I love the rainforest effect where everything, look at this, it's just beautiful and green and magnificent. Even that's a little creek around here, not a big one. That comes from those longer dark days, but I kind of like to make sure that when the sun shines here, I can actually catch it and capture it and hold time for just a little bit. I think that's what slow living kind of is. So this is me, and yes, I have really goofy hair because my hair was up in a little top knot and I kept getting it caught in the stickers. and they always talk about being authentic and real, but yeah, messy hair and looking a little chunky monkey, not complaining. That is real living over here. So when I go pick in the summertime, I eat as many as I keep, but I do like to take a belt and take a Kool-Aid. Does anybody remember Kool-Aid? We call them Kool-Aid pitchers, but they're a gallon jug with a handle. And I like to run the belt around my waist so that I can still have two hands for the picking and the sorting. And then, I just play at the creek, and you'll see me. Obviously, my dogs are there. The sun is shining. I'm eating as many as I'm harvesting. And pretty soon here, we're going to actually take a walk in the water and find something and see the crawdads and savor and soak it in. And I hope that you're savoring and soaking in the season that you're in. I kind of recognized in myself that I was making a bigger deal out of it this year than normal. And I'm not sure if that's because I am doing YouTube and recording it, or if it's almost like I'm anticipating the dreary days of winter too early. And I did make a long 1 hour long video of the summertime so that I could watch it in the middle of the winter and have the escape to bright colors and the beautiful, blue skies that you see in these. And I did that on purpose because I do deal with the winter blues, but I'm not 100% sure if it's true winter blues or if it's just the absence of the true sun. Like, I'm not sure if it's like, I don't know if you have to qualify for winter blues or not, but it's definitely something I think of. But, as much as I make this a tradition and being in the creek and catching crawdads and even corn on the cob, that's actually another one. Eating corn, a lot of it right off the cob when it's at its best, when you buy it straight from the farmer, is like the definition of summer. Like that's a summer well had. And I think that I was almost making too big of a deal. So I kind of made a decision while I was even making this that I'm not going to just make these traditions or rituals in the summer. I want to make them in the winter too, when I make a fire for the first time, or when I saw somebody who did art by candlelight, and I am a candle person, and I definitely light the candles for the ambience in the winter. But I think I'm going to try that, to actually paint or do a planner time or do something like that to candlelight on purpose and make a tradition out of the passing of winter and making it just as sentimental and almost a ritual that I am doing with these summertime things. I think that's a good idea. I did this year, I made a walking path around my property. My property's not that big, but it's big enough. And so I made a little walking circle so I could walk without paying attention. And I think I'm going to make sure that I have a good raincoat because Ireland people or people from Norway or wherever it's super wet like that, they always say there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. And I have been a person who chooses to be outside in the bad weather a lot since the last handful of years, but I think that I'm going to make it something I do on purpose, to actually witness the bad weather and to be out there, all bundled up and snuggled up. And, you can't be bundled up and snuggled up at this time of year, picking these yummy blackberries. But it all, traditions. I kind of wonder if any of you guys make it sentimental, or, I know that staying alive to living and being invested in the days as they unfold, and making sure that I'm not in such a rush to do. And, there's a lot of people who talk about hustle culture and a to-do list, and to let go of that, and I do like those things. I actually like to check off a list. There's nothing more satisfying than crossing something off your list when you've been working hard. But I also have to kind of guard and work against that production mentality, and just enjoy and just see it. That's what I'm doing in these. It's kind of incredible. The early berries are bright red, and they are sour. And actually, these blackberries were ripe, and I was picking them, but I'll definitely have to add a little sweetener or sugar to them. A couple days later, the friend that I walked to the end of the road and back with, we sat and practically gorged ourselves on some that were the next phase or two riper, and so they were just so sweet and so plump and so big. And where I live here in Oregon, this is how you do it. They grow like everywhere. Like, I have a hard time keeping blackberries from growing in my garden and taking over. They're kind of a nuisance. This is called the Milk Creek, and it's a small creek. And this red rock is actually called blood jasper. And there's actually a rock hound guy who forages our creek every year with his little rock bag, and he picks up different rocks that he polishes, and I think he resells some of them. But this is a blood red jasper, and our area is known for them because we did have the volcanic activity back, and we have a huge iron content in our dirt. So some of our people around my house have the bright red soil, like orange red soil. And so when this was hit with the volcanic activity, it made these beautiful jaspers, which most jasper is either brown or a dull yellow. And there is special ones. There's like tiger jasper from like Australia and different places. But this is what's known for my area. And last year, I actually walked my creek as part of this summer tradition. And I walked probably like a half a mile downstream, mucking through with water up to my hips, and surrounded by blackbirds making their nests. And there's a beaver that has a dam, and it's kind of like it's country girl all the way for sure. And I found a 10-pound blood jasper, and I actually hauled it out, which was super heavy to carry back, but I actually sold it on eBay to somebody who polished it up and put it on display in their office, and they were super proud to have it. And I thought that was kind of a fun, not normal experience. So I'm not a rock hound, but I played the rock hound for last summer when I was doing this same tradition. Right here, I'm not sure if you can see it, but there was a spider that had built a web right here next to these ones, and I'm going to try to show it, and I'm not sure I caught it. It's like right in here. And I'm kind of drawn to the things that have, see, look at that. See the pattern? I know people are freaked out about spiders, but aren't the webs kind of amazing? They're like so elaborate. It's like good crochet. Yeah, it just makes me giggle. My dogs are so happy when I spend the day down there. They're labs, and so of course they just muck around with me. And if there's any wildlife, they're pretty determined to stir up the water or scare it away. And yeah, I usually like to harvest enough crawdads or crayfish to make a meal one time too. And I tried this day, but I only caught 4. That's a mussel. And you can harvest those and eat them, but I've never actually eaten them. But I always liked finding them. When we were kids, we would pick them up and squeeze them like that, and they would squirt a little bit like a squirt gun, and we would get each other with them. And later this day, which isn't on the video, I actually found like a little pod of like 10 of them. So that was a very fun moment. And here's a little crawdad. I might do a whole thing on crawdads, but see how they have a little spot on them that you can hold on to and they can't pinch you? Yes, I grew up doing this. So sometimes the sentimental, these blackberry things and the crawdads, it's just like part of my childhood come back to revisit. That's called teasel. It's a type of thistle, and they used to use it to card the wool before the machines. They would they would spear a whole bunch of those onto a rod and rotate them and run them across the wool fabric. And there was an actual teasel farm. And I'm thinking about writing a book about that. I think it should be a murder at Teasel Creek. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, and actually, when I was really big pregnant with my first kid, who's going to turn 30 in like 2 weeks, so I'm no spring chicken, I had a bucket full of blackberries like this strapped to my waist, and I was within days of having him, I think within 2 days of having him, and I was picking these blackberries, probably nesting and not knowing it, and my brother had 2 dogs, and they tripped me, and I did a volleyball roll down the side of the hill, stood up, didn't spill any blackberries, had a little ding on my elbow and my shoulder, and I went back to the house and ended up going into labor that night and having him the day after. So there you go. Story time is over. I hope you appreciated foraging blackberries with me. It was beautiful. It was fun. And until next time, and let me know if you have any traditions that you do to hold on to summer, or to hold on and savor the goodness of the dark longness of winter. I could probably use the help. And maybe you can use the sunshine with my hour-long sunshine video that I just made. Have a good day until next time.